The coronavirus pandemic continues to have a massive impact on nearly all sectors of the economy, and with an extended lockdown now in place and movement of people and goods restricted, the construction and engineering sector is no doubt feeling the squeeze. But just how bad is the situation? Joining me now to answer that question is the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Forum of Civil Engineering Contractors, Mr. WebsterMfebe. Mr. Mfebe, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good evening.
Do paint a picture for us if you can. I mean, we know the activity in the construction sector was already severely constrained, even way before the COVID-19 was realized in South Africa at the beginning of March. We are well into 21 days into this lockdown. What's the situation like right now?
I think it would be important to contextualize the issue of the construction industry, that it has always been in recession for the past 11 up to the last quarter of 2019, where during that quarter it contracted 5.9%, making it the only sector of the economy that is perpetually in recession for such a long time. And we expect that the industry is going to contract by between 8 and 20% in 2020, and representing a decline of 30 billion rand due to the COVID impact. And also, we expect a loss of between 50,000 and 120,000 workers to lose their jobs out of 900,000 in the informal sector. But what will be the hardest hit will be smaller contractors who cannot withstand for longer periods the inactivity in the sector. So the impact is very severe to the economy and to the industry. And hence we've made an appeal to government on the platform of the Public-Private Road Initiative, which receives inputs from various sectors of the economy, which inputs go to the President and the Cabinet for attention. Already we are pleading that the construction industry should be reopened in line with what's happening in the UK, in the whole value chain in Europe and in parts of Africa in the construction sector is operational. And we've put forward a proposal in terms of what guidelines are we going to comply with in order to accommodate the COVID-19 requirement. You might be aware that the construction sector is already a heavily regulated industry in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, in terms of which it places the obligation on the shoulders of employers to make sure that the workplace is healthy and safe for all the stakeholders involved. So we are already a heavily regulated industry. All these requirements of personal protective equipment is something that is commonplace within the construction industry. And I am happy to say that the President himself, having met with the sectors of the economy on the 17th of February, expressed a concern with the decline in the construction industry, to a point where the Minister of Trade and Industry suggested that there should be a master plan for the construction industry in South Africa to deal with those issues. So the government is already in the action with the submission that we have made, and I am positive that the President is well aware that this sector is the one that is going to reignite the economy going forward. And we are expecting positive results out of our submission we've made. And also, in addition to what the PPGI is doing, there is also an initiative from other sectors to say, let's broaden the input into what needs to be done. And that process will feed into the existing processes that are already before the government, the level of the President. And we applaud the President showing stellar stewardship and leadership to ensure the protection of the rights to life of all South Africans by ordering a lockdown, whilst at the same time we're pleading that the economy should be reopened methodically, progressively, and the construction sector is one that's going to ignite the economy.
Yeah, I want us to discuss on just how essential the construction sector is in a moment. But as you mentioned that some of the hardest hit will be the small contractors. I mean, those are reliant on the, on suppliers, on the manufacturing and as well as the provision of mechanical, plumbing and as well as electrical services. So this may lead to, these contractors finding alternative supplies. So am I correct to observe that the finding alternative supplies may lead to the cancellation of purchase orders and as well as the termination of some major contract?
Well, there is a biggest risk there, but also to just reflect on the supplier industry, the hardware stores, the retail stores that supply the industry. For the past 12 to 18 months, they have been also underperforming as a result of non-activity in the construction sector even before the lockdown took place. Now, the risk is that even those stores, those suppliers will not be able to sustain their businesses to supply the industry going forward should the industry, in fact, we expect the industry to be reopened to get the economic activity going forward. So there's a risk of many contracts not being met as a result of this lockdown taking longer than expected, which is why we are appealing to the government to come in so as to reopen the supplier industry, the sector, the whole value chain in the construction industry, the suppliers, the manufacturers of equipment, the retailers that supply to the industry, the steel manufacturers that supply to the industry. That is what is going to ensure that we try to deal with the impact also of the downgrading, which is unfortunate by the food and things agencies, which is going to cause a further risk in terms of financial facilities from the banks, because it's going to be expensive first and foremost for government to borrow money to invest in infrastructure, and also for contractors to raise funding to undertake those infrastructure projects. And it is bad for everyone. Hence, we appeal to government to work expeditiously, and we have all the confidence that the President understands very well, the Minister of Trade and Industry, the Minister of Labour and Employment, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, the Minister of Finance. All our government is seized with this matter of ensuring that all the economic sectors, where possible, are reopened. But the construction sector is the most important sector that can comply fully with the requirements that are imposed by the COVID-19.
And speaking of committing to certain projects, I mean, lenders funding some of these projects will now tread very carefully and walking on eggshells, and they'll be very cautious about committing to some long-term projects until some economic stability is achieved in South Africa. With the economy already in the doldrums, with the technical recession, with downgrade after downgrade, is there a plan B for this sector just in case some of these lenders and funders do not commit?
I think it would be patriotic on the part of funders and development finance institutions to understand the conundrum the country finds itself in. And it will be very unfortunate to be self-serving. Everyone has to contribute and realize we are in it, all of it, and therefore these sectors must relax their rules in terms of borrowing and availing financial facilities in order to ignite the economy. And the President has made that call and rallied all the sectors of the economy, including the financial services sector, to come on board. And they have shown willingness. But contractors will always say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. until they demonstrate that they are patriotic. Everybody should assist our government to recover during this period. And I have no doubt that sector will be very circumspect in terms of rejecting projects that are going to ignite the economy, that needs funding and facilitate and ease their stringent regulation in order for the economy to recover. The Reserve Bank of South Africa has already demonstrated by lowering the interest rates, also signaling that everyone in the various economic sectors should contribute positively to rescue South Africa from the current economic doldrums, so that we emerge also out of this situation of being downgraded. So my appeal to the financial services sector is that they must not see this as an opportunity to tighten the screws on borrowing, but either as an opportunity to ease and facilitate the reignition of the economy for the benefit of all South Africans. Because if contractors and all the economic sectors are involved in economic activity, they will bank those profits and income that they are getting from those projects. And the banks will benefit. But without any economic activity aided by them, we are all in a ditch, so to speak. So that is my appeal, that let us all assist our government.
Webster, it's quite interesting that you touch on patriotism, but I think that the most probable response that the financiers and the lenders would give you is that they are also in business and they are just as affected by coronavirus like any other sector. So what would make the construction sector more different than the others? I mean, you're calling for this sector to be reopened, and if the president does indeed reopen this sector, what about the other sectors? What about the non-essential sectors like the alcohol sector, like the hospitality sector, the restaurants, the clothing shops? I mean, what about them? What makes the construction industry different from the other sectors?
I think it is important for the financial services sector to know that they exist because people put money in the bank. They put money in the banks because there's economic activity. It would be counterproductive of them, therefore, to tighten the screws. But they should provide opportunities for business to be re-established, to go on.
What I'm trying to find out from you, Webster, is that you're saying that banks exist because people put money in the bank, in as much as the other sectors exist because people buy their products. What is so different about the construction sector?
No, I'm not. I'm pleading the case of the construction sector because I am in the construction sector. I am saying the other sectors, yes, they should be looked at in terms of whether they're going to comply with the regulations that will be provided by government in order to allow them to operate. What is different with the construction sector is that we are already a strictly regulated sector, which is in fact using all the protective equipment gear that is being advised by the World Health Organization and also by our own health department and our government. Therefore, it is not something new that we are going to embark on. It is not something novel. We are already using the PPEs in the construction sector. The only addition is the issue of water availability, washing of hands, how that is done, the sanitizers, how we practice social distancing in the work environment, and so forth. All those issues we have tabulated. So we are totally different because we're already a strictly regulated sector in terms of the current requirement. So we are the sector that could have been allowed in the first instance to operate as it is the case in UK and parts of Africa, where South African companies actually have projects in the UK.
All right, Mr. WebsterMfebe, the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Forum of Civil Engineering Contractors, joining us via Skype. Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. We'll have more news coming up in a moment. This is The Globe.